Thank you all for coming out tonight, especially on a Monday in the rain. We really appreciate it. We have Edward's been working very hard over the last couple of weeks to put this together. So we're really excited for this lineup of panelists. We've got startup founders, we've got mid-market and enterprise go-to-market experts. So you'll get a full picture of the go-to-market journey. Before we get started, it's not every day that we get a room full of incredible people together. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about UTS Startups. We are the home of Sydney's best emerging startups, and we help support founders on their startup journey and help them scale their businesses by providing a strong and connected community, in-house experts, perks to help sort of take the edge off running a startup, as well as run awesome events, workshops, and programs like this. And so for this event only, we have this QR code which takes you to a EOI form where founders can get 50% off the first month with UTS Startups. So if you are interested, please scan that QR code. Don't lose that link. If you'd like to learn a bit more about what we do here, myself, Victoria, Nooks, Murray, we're all here tonight, so please come chat to us after the panel. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to our moderator, Edward.
Cool. I guess we can start straight away, just cautious of time. I'm going to bring up the panelists up on stage. So we've got Lucy, Amy, Adam, and Michelle. If you can come on stage, please. Thank you. Yeah, sure. I've got the logos up there. Can you tell? Can you tell? Yeah. Okay. Get comfortable. So, just around there. Oh, yeah. Thanks. Cool. So I can face you guys. Cool. I can start with you, Lucy, and then we can pass the mic along as well. So one of the first few questions is turning your initial design partners into paying clients. So your experience in go-to-market as well. Actually, good question. Before that, we probably should start an intro. So we'll pass along the mic. If you can do a quick intro about yourself and what you're doing at the moment. Yeah. Experience in go-to-market as well, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, great. Hi, I'm Lucy. I've got about 15 years in B2B sales experience in a couple of different industries, mostly in SaaS. I have also been the first commercial hire at a startup, taken it to the US, started my own consultancy helping technical founders bring their AI products to market, pre-PMF, pre-product, or mostly pre-revenue. And in the last 4 months, I've been working on my own startup. So I'm the founder or co-founder of Nice Gary. We are automating the ordering of materials for Aussie trades. So it's been a journey.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy. Thanks for coming. My background's in private equity and venture capital, but I founded my own business called Diolog about 3 years ago now. We basically help retail investors, like yourselves, communicate and better engage with listed companies.
Hey everyone, my name's Adam. Let's get this straight off the gate. I'm very nervous, so if I come across as nervous, I have lovely ladies here to help, support, so they've been great so far. About roughly 10 to 15 years in sales myself. I've sold everything from printers, copiers, tiles, roller shutters, software. I have my own Italian food company. So a little bit of experience there. Currently working in AI agents, which is all the rage, and look forward to hopefully adding value tonight.
Hi everyone. Wow, what a panel. You guys are incredible. My name's Michelle. I'm from Evaheld. So my background, a long time ago, I studied finance and law. And Evaheld is business number 5. Certainly my passion and what I feel like I'm here to do. And Evaheld started out as a memory and story preservation platform, and now we're the most comprehensive legacy preservation platform in the world. So we do all of estate planning, so wills, passwords, all of that boring stuff, advanced care planning and like QI emergency access cards, and of course, story and legacy preservation and future dated messages.
I might have spoiled the first question a little bit there, but the panelists that I brought in with us have a lot of experience in go-to-market as well as founding experience as well. So a lot of the questions going to be related to how do you scale from 0 to 1. The first question is, transitioning from your existing design partners to paying clients, at what stage do you decide to be like, hey, they're mature enough as a client, we've got enough tractions, now it's time for us to convert, and what's your strategy around that? So I guess we can start from, well, you have the mic over there, Michelle, like from your first client, from design partners of pilots, turning them into an actual revenue-paying clients.
Yeah, good question. So the biggest challenge is overcoming mental breakdowns every day. Definitely. Getting yourself back to neutral and baseline and being okay. I think that's the biggest challenge of any startup. For us, we had to move really quickly and pivot really quickly when opportunities came along, and a lot of the time we were building to other people's specifications. So the one that comes to mind is aged care. They literally were hooked by the legacy and memory preservation and wanting to give that to their residents as a nice to have. But what they really needed was digitised advanced care planning and the QR emergency access cards. So for us, we started working with them and we literally built that entire pillar to their requirements.
And from then on, you transition your existing clients into revenue from there, or like what was the stage?
Yeah, so I think that's really interesting because saying we transition them to paying clients is kind of like saying we have a choice in the matter, and we really don't. It's really a matter of when they feel like we've given them enough value that they want to start paying us. So for us, we did so much work, so much consultative work, so much work around their entire processes, their existing processes, transformation around how their staff work, deep dive into their existing CRMs and how they manage customers. So I literally had to learn about the aged care ecosystem really, really quickly and do so much unpaid work just to build what they wanted and show value. And I think the crux was when they turned around and said, wow, this is a partner who's going to give us what we want and is going to do it without complaining and really quickly. So I think that's super important.
And Adam, from your point of view, you've worked with a lot of startups and SMBs as well, based on your experience in psych, I believe. So if you can expand us a little bit more on your interactions with all those startups.
Thanks, mate. There's a book by Eric Ries called The Lean Startup. I don't know if anyone's read it. It was one of the first books I ever read. And this definition, I think it was in this book, his definition of a startup is a human institution designed to work in circumstances of uncertainty. And the reason why I bring that up is because I think the big mistake we make early on is thinking about how much money can we make instead of what problems are we solving. If that's your number one priority early on, generating revenue, I think you're already, you have the wrong focus. I think the focus should be, how do we solve this person's problem with our service or product? And then the value will come after that. The other thing as well is Brian Chesky, the founder of Airbnb, said, find 10 people that love your product and not 100 people that like your product. And if you focus on those 10 people or 3 people or whoever it is, whether they're in or out of your network, and you get them to a point where they say, now I can't actually live without your product or service, you've hit the nail on the head, because at some point they're going to start paying. You turn those people into case studies, and you market accordingly. And then you go, I love this topic, by the way. I have so many thoughts on it, but I don't want to hog the microphone, so.
Yeah, I think for Amy and Lucy specifically, working as a founder and experience in venture capital and private equity as well, some startups, they get stuck on bringing that first clients because they need revenue or they need funding and capitals to bring in those first few clients. If it was especially targeting to enterprise or like government sector. So like just based on your experience from that end as well.
Yeah, of course. I think as a founder, with any new or novel or experimental product, well, for me at least, it was very hard to know, will people actually pay for this? How much will they pay for this? When will they start paying for this? What, like in their mind, is an appropriate cost for this type of product, right? And so it can be, again, in that uncertainty, fairly unknown, and that's the reason why you often have design partners or early adopters or trial customers or whatnot. I think and again, like I'm learning, I say this having gone through it, probably made lots of mistakes along the way, and now I reflect on it. But I think the process, at least from my point of view, would be to try and quantify that value as much as you can, whether that's qualitatively or quantitatively. So that might be how much are people, or how much are these design partners using the product? What are their session times? How often are they coming back to it? How often are they using it? Are they sharing it? Are they talking about it with other people? Or even qualitatively, running really structured design programs where you're constantly checking in with them. You're running very structured questions with them or interviews and recording those and analysing them. And I think it was Michelle's point. You said something about nice to have, and I think there's a big balance or challenge there of finding out, what is nice to have and what is critical to have. And for us, a lot of our enterprise clients are, very lovely professionals at the end of the day. And they love to see a young founder or someone going out on their own and trying to build something to solve something. And they're very nice. And like everyone's going to be nice to you, right? They're going to say nice things. They're going to be like, wow, you've built something amazing. This is great. And yeah, you hope. At first, as a founder, you're like, this is amazing. Like, this is incredible. I'm going to be so successful, right? But I think the challenge is finding out, like, what is nice and, like, what is an actual, like, commercial signal here. There's a difference between something being nice and having something that someone will actually pay for. And so even now, we still run design or partner cohorts if we want to test new features. And so I will always say to our friendly design partners, I was like, look, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you kind of testing this out for us, but I really need you to be honest, And I think Lucy will go into more about this, but it's really okay to ask potential customers, like, will you pay for this? Like, how much are you going to pay for this? And so that was something that really helped us kind of transition from who's just a tester, who's just a friendly and providing good feedback, as opposed to like who is going to be like a realistic commercial customer for us, and therefore that's the type of persona that we should actually be attracting and going for.
Yeah, I've brought a lot of first customers on for founders. I'm doing it right now in my own startup. It looks different. It does look different every time. But if I can give you one tip, it is talk about price from day dot. And a reframe that has really helped me is, I think we get into this stage, particularly as founders or as go-to-market operators, is when you really care about a product, when you really care about a problem, you really care about a person, you think, talking about price means I don't care about them anymore. It means that we're just talking about revenue, we're just talking about money. But what I'm talking about is authenticity. The reality is that you are not building this business to make zero money. Like, that's not what's happening. It may not be your full motivation. It may not be the purpose of why you're building the business, but businesses make money. You will be charging for this product. Look, my product at the moment is for trades. I have about 12 design partners. I have been upfront about price. I ask them about price every time I see them. I ask them, how much would you pay for this? Why? Where is the value coming from? How are you thinking about it in your head? What if I charged you this much? What would you need to see? One of the best questions I've ever asked is asking them, how much would you pay per month this? Or how much would you expect this to be per month? And then the follow-up question is, what do I need to do to double that? What do you need to see for me to double that? And it is hilarious how often something they say is, oh, that's already on the roadmap. About to bring that out in a month. Great. Can't wait to double that, right? Do you want me to wrap up?
No.
Okay,
go
great.
ahead. We've still got time.
Just
Still
give me
got
the
time.
little...
No.
I'll keep going.
I've got a couple of follow-ups after this.
Okay, fab. I had a really, really good other thing to say for you. Okay, hang on. It was good. Yeah, also your design partners. Pick who your design partners are and give them one price for life. Then they will always tell you the truth. If they think at one point you say, or at some point we are going to charge you, we're just waiting for you to tell us how much value there is. They're not going to tell you straight up. And secondly, then you can ask them to speak on behalf of their own peers, on behalf of their industry. And they love that. It's powerful. It feels good. They're part of the journey. Bring them on it. But yes, talking about price is authentic. Talking about price is doing them a favor. Like if you are providing them with value, everything costs money. They know that. They want to pay for something. They want to commit to something. Please don't be afraid to talk about price. Oh, that's fine.
I'm going to do something a bit different here. I'm going to open up the questions to the audience after every questions while the topic is hot. Unless, if there's no questions, I'll go with the follow-ups. Depends on the type of clients. Yeah, bring it up.
He said, does it... Sorry.
Doesn't it depend on the type of client you've got? If they're
What depends on the type of
well, I
client?
do deep research stuff and solving major problems, and those people haven't got allocated budgets, but they could get them. Versus someone who's just got I've got this idea of how much money I could spend on something like that.
I mean, if you're saying you can't talk about price with them because it's like that, that's not what you're saying? What you're saying is like, what price would it be? Like they can't really tell you? Is that what you mean? That's not what he means either. I feel like I need to know what he means.
I think it's sort of like picking up the right design partners to begin with. Because it's the specific industry that you're going into that might not have a budget allocated. Yeah, so most of it's going into an industry that doesn't have a budget allocated to that specific.
Ed, I was going to say, I think regardless of what you're referring to, I couldn't agree more. It does really depend on who you're talking to, who you're potentially working with. But I think when it comes to pricing, you also need to factor in how much is it going to cost us as a company to deliver the product or service or whatever we're offering. So that comes down to it. And also, if you do discovery well enough, then you'll qualify quickly and you'll be able to figure out quickly whether or not that person or that company will be able to afford what you're offering. At the end of the day, if your product or service is valuable enough, then they'll find the money to pay for it. If not, then they're not the right client for you. That's how I see it.
Yeah, and sorry, now I understand it's budget out. Sorry. No, you go ahead, Michelle. Yeah, please.
I think what springs to mind for me, everything that everyone has said is valid, but the hardest thing is getting in front of these people, right? So access is the hardest thing. So we can talk for days about prices, we can talk for days about qualifying audiences. If you're talking about, and I don't mean to assume anything, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're talking about trades or people that you can access a lot easier, that's fantastic, and everything that you've just said. I love that idea about giving them a lifetime price to elicit honesty forever. I love that. For us, we went after really large companies. So by the time we got in front of them and they're giving us a shot, the hardest bit was getting in front of them. Because if you don't get that, there's no point talking about like pricing and all the rest of it. And this is something we did at the beginning and we did incorrectly, was we over-engineered all of these things. And we didn't realise that 99% of the time was going to be spent on actually building trust and getting in front of these people. So I think it's really hard to... It's almost like you've got to look at what you're selling and who these people are, and before you can make an assessment about pricing or how you're going to approach them. So it's really, really difficult.
It's good that you point that out because that's going to be the second question. Yeah. But we'll narrow it down into a bit where how should you prioritize sales versus marketing when it comes to, say, getting your first early design partners, or even getting your company in front of these large enterprises? If it's targeting onto the SMB market, how would you position yourself as a startup, as a founder as well?
I might handle this for 1 minute and then hand it off so I don't speak too long. If there's anything I can have everyone part with today, when you think of sales and marketing, use the term smarketing. I learned that off HubSpot in 2016. And when I think of sales and marketing, I think of one harmonious marriage. One can't live without the other. Marketing informs the sales team in terms of the data they're collecting, so sales can pitch effectively. And when sales are speaking to prospects, if a prospect says, oh, we're facing this problem, then sales knows then to speak to marketing to say, target and communicate with our ICP, our ideal customer profile, based on what we're learning in our sales calls. So, and in terms of marketing, when should you market? When should you sell? It's Michelle, right? Michelle brought up a great point. Like, what good is a product or service if no one knows about it? So marketing starts from day zero, and literally you should start collecting emails and data and any information you can on whoever you intend to sell to from literally day zero. Find a startup software like Keep, ActiveCampaign, MailChimp if you have to. Please try not to use MailChimp, but if you have to, use it. And start communicating with them straight off the bat. Plenty more to say, but like I said, I don't want to hog the mic, so.
I mean, I think I have a very different perspective just being like a very early stage founder. In the last 3 years of Diolog, we've done little to no marketing, to be honest. One, because of budget, we don't have a lot, but also because we have a high trust, like high contact product with enterprise customers. So I think it does depend on your customer base, whether it's B2C, B2B. But for us, it's B2B, it's enterprise. These people value, again, high trust, relationships. They want sometimes special treatment. They want to talk, they want to hear the words out of kind of the founder's mouth, right? So another thing that I believe strongly in is that you will never learn as much from marketing as you will from sales as a founder. Marketing won't tell you the objections that are coming from the customers. They will rarely tell you what customers are, what words they're leaning into and what they care about, and you won't be able to kind of perform curiosity in that moment or with that touch point with the customer. So I think specifically for early stage, founder-led sales is so important for discovery, for product development, to actually inform the marketing later on, or to inform whatever channels that you use to market the business.
I actually agree with both Amy and Adam in particular here, and yes, Michelle, I am talking specifically about non-enterprise, so that was a good difference to make. It is very different. Marketing can come in many different forms. Like when we're talking about MailChimp, when we're talking about digital marketing, when we're talking about performance marketing, like it's also marketing your product. Like I'm marketing Nice Gary by sitting here right now. Like I market Nice Gary by walking on site and saying, "G'day, how you going?" I market Nice Gary by going to the nearby site with my husband who owns a landscape construction business and picking out some boulders and going, "G'day, Phil." Right? Like that's marketing. It is. It's in my opinion, sales and marketing are both being everywhere that your customer is. It's really uncomfortable. It is really a lot more comfortable to market, which is why a lot of founders do it first. It is so much more comfortable to sit behind a computer and send some ads out and say, "I'm marketing to my customers." But you do not know your customer until you have sat in front of them and you have asked them question after question after question, and you have gone deep. And when they say, "I really like what you're doing," you go, "Why? Why do you like what I'm doing? But would you pay for it?" A lot of the times that I've made big mistakes in the past going, "They love it. They love it. Wouldn't pay for it, but they love it. Great." And so, yes, I would say I do agree with Amy in this. Like every time I've gone into a very early stage startup, particularly with technical founders, I've made them very, very uncomfortable by saying, "No, unfortunately, you cannot do any marketing. Who are you going to market to? You don't even know who you're marketing to yet." And if you think, I can guarantee you that if you think you really have an ICP down pat right now, narrow it down. It's not an ICP. Go down one level and another level and another level again. And another tip that I will give you on this, psychographics. Please take that away with you. Claude knows what it is now. Our mate Claude. That's also, you just need to know the word, psychographics. Look at the mindset of your customers. And so, for example, I'm lucky. I'm looking at trades. Generally, while it's massively diverse, it's actually one of those audiences that has a really small amount of archetypes. So these people generally are eating shit. Sorry, are we allowed to swear? No, day to day, right? Really complex job sites. They are literally getting dirt thrown in their faces. It's a lot. And they are pissed at a lot of things, right? And then when you think about a persona like a CEO, I'm a CEO. Met a lot of CEOs that don't look like me, right? We don't fit into the same archetype. So you need to understand how your customer feels about AI. How do they feel about, how do they buy? What's their decision criteria? What pisses them off day to day? How are they going to feel about the way that you contact them or where they are? Anyway, 2 takeaways. Be everywhere they are. Psychographics. Enter it into Claude.
Adam, you've got something to add?
Just super quickly, I know you want to contribute as well on this. So, we all have one of these, all right? Mine has a little thing next to it. Sorry about that. Gary Vaynerchuk, some people like him, some people really don't like him. I love him. I've followed him for a long time, and I agree with Amy. It really depends what sector you're in, and everyone has a different philosophy. There's no right or wrong way to look at it. I think as a startup, one of the absolute best things you can do is get yourself in front of a camera. I personally believe, regardless of whether you are SME or enterprise, I think way more so than SME, if you get yourself in front of a camera, one thing you're doing is getting people as part of your journey. Honestly, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, Meta, all the channels. Although we don't have a big war chest as a startup, it's absolutely free to create a 30-second video, hop on, say, this is what I'm doing, this is why I've created this business, this is my story. You repurpose it for every channel. I know there's a lot of learning and editing and stuff like that, but it's free. And the way the algorithm works today is you don't need to have followers for people to engage in your video. That's what's changed today. You could have 1 follower and your video can go viral. So get yourself onto social media ASAP. And if you're not willing to, your competitors will be. So try your best to get yourself in front of a camera.
I've got a follow-up questions to the founders, so Michelle, Lucy and Amy. And then I've got a follow-up as well to you, Adam. Specifically around founders branding. And your question, Adam, is going to be around company branding. So how do you personally build your founders branding, and what are the key pain points that you always come across when building a new startup or going through new markets and stuff, basically?
I'm so sorry.
From a founder's perspective.
How do you build the founder what, sorry?
Founders branding.
The founder brand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the company, so yourself as a founder.
Good question. I'm really bad at that. I think I'm horrible.
This is marketing, by the way. So
yeah, what you said is great. Coming to things like this and anything that I'm invited to do, I will do it. But I've been very bad at doing what Adam just said, which is actually really, really clever. A really clever thing to do. And I've actually thought about this week and thought, damn, 4.5 years ago, I probably should have started making those little videos. What I did was a little bit different, because initially we were focused on B2B and now we've finally been able to focus on both. I thought of social media as simply a trust and credibility touch point. And so I thought, all I need to do is make sure that when I reach out to them and they look us up, they see us everywhere in those 15 seconds, because they're not going to look any more than that, and we exist there. So I automated, that's why it probably wasn't very good, don't go back 4 years and look at our socials, but I automated a year of posts 7 days a week across all socials. I'm so glad I did that, because it costs no money. You can go right now, you can get up, you can use free ChatGPT. DeepSeek's amazing, the free version, the best one out there, I think. Just get them to do a content plan, produce it, and automate it. That's the word I wanted. Automate it every day. Without you thinking and not having to put in any effort at all, you exist and you've got that credibility down pat. That's what I did. Worked out very well for me, because otherwise I would have spent, because it makes me nervous and I'm shit at it, I reckon I would have spent 5 hours a day going, oh my God, am I going to say in this video, I need a bottle of wine. So that's another, if you're scared, think of social media. If you can do this video a day, it is absolutely the best thing to do. If you can go to your customers and get videos like we did, best thing to do. I interviewed, that's a bad word. Before Evaheld, I volunteered for nearly a decade, working full-time nights and evenings, helping people at end of life create content to give to their loved ones after they passed away. I didn't have content that I could post. It felt very moral for me. I have a few people that I got permission, and I have posted those things or used them more like in brand videos than posting on socials. But for me, it was also, especially at the beginning, really difficult to create brand content that was real, even though I could have. So I think look at what you're doing and think, do the founder journey, but definitely what everybody in the room can do is have presence, post every day or 4 times a week, and have that consistency in brand presence.
This question, well, I think this concept as a whole I've struggled with a lot, because like Lucy said in the previous question, you know, if the goal is to kind of show up where your customers are and really learn what they care about, my persona and brand as a startup founder doesn't really equate to like something that they might trust or buy. And so this is a struggle for me, because when I'm talking to, you know, the CFO at a Big 4 bank in Australia, they don't want to know that we're a startup. They don't want to know that we have a team of like less than 10, and they want trust and credibility and security and risk management, right? So for me, over the last few years, like I've really had to balance the startup founder hype and, you know, the press that you get from it and the awesome panels that you get to do like this and opportunities that come your way, whilst also presenting as like a thought leader, credible. I know this person and that person, and you know, I'm knowledgeable, and trust me, please, you know, buy my product. So that's been really tricky. Although I will say that in Australia, my experience has been quite different to the US. So in Australia, all of our customers, again, really kind of appreciate and prioritise that credibility and security. Whereas in the US, the approach has been slightly different. You can tell someone, even, you know, a CFO at a big listed company, that you're a startup and that you can give them competitiveness to win more clients, and they'll be very excited about that. They'll want to be early adopters. They'll want to explore you and see how they can have an edge against, you know, someone else in their sector. So again, it comes back, I think, to the previous question of is like really know your customer, know your market, know what they care about. And that might influence how you present your founder brand or your company brand. But personally, it's something that like I still struggle with. So I think it's a balance at the end of the day.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I think like particularly the generation younger than me, there's a few of them, are like very, very good at their personal brands on LinkedIn, on socials, etc. I'm like Amy, I see a little bit of a risk to it, because what I want has changed over the years. Who I am has changed over the years. And to stay truly authentic, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do at all, but it does matter. I think there's a couple of parts to this. One is, you know, I have forced at least 20 founders to take videos of themselves, because on LinkedIn particularly if you are building tech for anyone in the tech industry, you need to be on LinkedIn and you need to show your face. Like linking a human to a product right now is one of the most powerful things you can do. End of story. And depending on what the product is, like Amy says, either that human, that brand is about integrity and giving a shit, or it's credibility and experience, or it's technical expertise, whatever it needs to be. But I would pick one. So for example, now like I'm not putting anything on LinkedIn. I don't have the time. It's it's not the right thing to do, fine. But also, my audience isn't there. Instead, what I do is, again, I go where they are. But the other thing I do is that I stay true to who I am and what I stand for and what's important to me and what I want with every interaction. Because particularly in this community, in the tech community, people talk. People talk. Like, your brand is how you show up tonight. Your brand is how you talk to others. Your brand is how you listen, like more than anything else, I would say. So I can't help you with what videos to put on social media.
Adam, company branding.
I would recommend getting a book, once again, by Gary Vee, the man. It's called Day Trading Attention. And one thing he talks about is that it's all about attention arbitrage, which is the trading of attention. Where are people's eyes and ears? The people that you want to reach out to, are they on LinkedIn? Are they on TikTok? Are they at a trade show? And you want to try and show up there. Lucy brought up a great point earlier about just being present wherever your market is, essentially. I am a founder myself, and one thing I did when launching my business was I reached out to food influencers on Instagram. I said, let me give you 3 free meat pies for a review. And I got 30 of them to post reviews. We did a shared post on Instagram, and I wouldn't say it went viral, but it really helped a lot. We sold a lot of pies in that first month of doing that. But there's many different ways. If you're in the enterprise space, maybe it is harmful if you're doing these things. So you do have to be careful, but once again, just get yourself in front of a camera, read books, and that's my contribution to the question.
Cool. Moving on to the next. Actually, before that, one question.
Hey, this guy's a Manchester City jersey. How did he get in?
Just don't got the money. By the way, my friend has an automation tool for posting, right? Just wanted to promote his product as well. Just for Amy, I almost want to ask, why are Americans so forthcoming than us? And there's such a culture, and what's your observation? And I almost want to say I want to change it, but I don't think I can. And when you look at those two markets, how do you promote yourself differently as a founder?
That's a really hard question because I don't think I have the answer, but I can tell you what I think, which is I think it's less of an American thing and more of an Australian thing where my observation comes from. Like in Australia, the country naturally is a very conservative country in many different respects. And so I think if I was born and raised in the US and, I'd probably think that that's just normal, really. But coming from Australia compared to the US, it is quite different. I think the observation has come from mostly through founder-led sales. We only started my first trip to the US was 2 years ago, so about a year and a half into Diolog, where we had a small Australian customer base and we knew it was applicable to the US. And so that was more of like an exploration. It was a discovery trip, meeting as many people as I could, pretty much adapting and pivoting on the fly to figure out, I'm suddenly figuring out what they care about as opposed to Australia. In Australia, it was a lot more about security, implementation, and cost. In the US, it was more how's this, the innovation, how's this going to make us more competitive to our competitors, and who else in the US do you have as a customer right now? In terms of how I approach the different markets, again, a hard question. I think it's just a different pitch. It's just like if you were pitching to a certain, it's just a different customer persona at the end of the day. Like Lucy said, really break down your ICP. Well, I have if I have 5 ICPs in Australia, I have another 10 for the US, So that's how detailed you've got to go. But in terms of that's in terms of founder-led sales. In terms of brand and founder brand, I'd say I'm a bit more on the founder side in the US and a bit more on the business, professional, knowledgeable side in Australia, just because that's, I guess, the appetites where they lean towards.
I think people can see straight through you. Authenticity is everything. what I've seen in America, so I've spent a couple of months in San Fran. I've sold quite a few products over there, right? And there's a lot of the same thing over there. And I guess that's okay. But what do you want? Like, because if you want to take the Hormozy approach and just use numbers and just make money, then yeah, copy what they're doing and do it. But like also, your customer knows. Your customer knows that if you're being Hormozy and you're making $100 million, or if you give a shit about them personally. Like, so do you want them to be connected to you? Like, do you want to feel that connection? Do you want them to feel that connection? Do you want them to think and go, wow, this guy gets me? Or do you want 100,000 likes? And maybe both can be true, and neither is the wrong answer. But I think that's what it's about, is like, it's not that they do it better. Like, yeah, they do it bigger, they've got bigger audiences, but also it's maybe your algorithm too. Like, there are a lot of people here that are bloody impressive. And it's more about what percentage of your market are you capturing, not how many people are you capturing. I mean, their market is what, how many times ours? I don't do math.
100 million people over there.
Do you know what I mean? And I think it looks impressive, but is it real? A lot of the time, that's usually the question I have.
What's your business, mate?
Yeah.
Or is it speaking as a duo?
I guess, yeah.
That sounds complex.
Well, I was going to say, there's nothing like social proofing is something we all still use today. We go to Google reviews or wherever we're looking. A lot of the time we look at, whether a restaurant has 5 stars or whatever, right? And I think that goes back to what we were all saying earlier about you find your initial customers, do whatever it takes to get them to a point where they become a paying customer, and then get them in front of a camera if they're willing, or turn that into some sort of testimonial, and then use that to win your next customer, because that is authenticity, like Lucy mentioned. And if you care enough, you'll get that. You'll get them to say in front of a camera or as a testimonial or a case study or whatever, this is why we're working with you. This is the value we got out of it. This is what we were doing before we met, the both of you, and this is the reason why we're still working with you today. If you put that on social media, that's hard to ignore.
And by the way, beyond ICP, like beyond companies itself, you've got stakeholders of buyers. Every single stakeholder is a different pitch as well. So the only way for you to figure it out, I don't want to spoil because that's going to be the next question, for the perfect pitch is to engage with your audience, I think. So we can move on to the next question, which is crafting the perfect pitch. And beyond that as well, who should be in the meeting when you jump in with different levels of stakeholders? Say if it's like technical stakeholders or if it's like executive. Amy, you mentioned that in Australia, when you jump on meetings with enterprise level, they tend to look at your enterprise experience rather than founder's experience. So would you bring on your advisors in a meeting as a founders, or would that be, would you brief with them first, or how would you strategize those meetings with different stakeholders?
Sure. Again, I can only speak from my experience, having like a very small team and still fairly early stage. But interestingly, in Australia, I've never had to bring on another person yet, at least on a call. They might have been CC'd in an email. In the US, I've been asked for like my CTO to come on a call. But honestly, how I take the lead on that is I just ask them, or they will ask me. So I just say, for example, is there anything else that you need right now? Is there anyone else you'd like to talk to? Anything else you'd like to go through? And in that case, I would bring the appropriate person on. I think as well for our product, like I am literate enough in the technical side of things or any other questions, which I think you'd hope to be as the founder or the person doing the sales, that you can answer a lot of the questions or you prepare for all those questions anyway. So you kind of have everything you need at your disposal. I think it gets a little bit different, which I'm sure Lucy can probably talk to more, when you actually get to a more in-depth implementation side of things where, other people might need to come on to help. But for us, be it because of our product or how great I am at explaining things to them. I don't know. I haven't needed to bring on like many other team members yet.
First meeting, who would you bring on your first meeting?
The founder. Or
Myself?
like just, 100%. Like, there are many scenarios in which it makes sense to bring more people. Sometimes it's out of respect. So if they've asked for particular technical expertise and that is not your expertise, bring them. But really, the whole, if they have 7 people, we have 7 people, like I call bullshit. Like if you can answer the questions, answer the questions. So I mean, I've been part of 2, 4, $6 million deals where there's been 2 people in the room, and then I've been where there's 11 people in the room. I love what Amy's talking about in terms of bringing more people along the journey. There's a concept called multi-threading. Learn it real quick. Like it's not always with SMB unless you're really, really early stage, and there's a couple of different archetypes within the business, but mainly it's within mid-market to enterprise, and it is absolutely necessary. So what that concept is essentially is sometimes having more than one conversation with 2 people. I'll give you an example. Like let's say the CFO is going to be the end decision maker, but they're the ones who aren't really going to see the value. They're not going to understand it. They don't feel the pain. So the discovery conversation, the champion that you're building within that business is maybe the head of investor relations. Is that what it is at Diolog? Yeah. So the CFO doesn't want to talk to you. They don't give a shit. They don't care about the pain. Don't try and be their best mate. They don't want to hear about it. So instead what I would do is I would book a meeting with the head of investor relations, who, Amy's best friends with. And then I would go to the CFO on LinkedIn, send her a message and send her a message. Sarah, I'm actually meeting with Bob from Investor Relations next week. Nothing you need to do. We're going to be going through ABC. I'll keep you posted. That's it. And then you're going to do that after each meeting. Met with Bob, had ABCD. The next meeting looks like this. Keep you posted. By the time it gets round to it going onto the CFO's table, they know what this is. They know who they're up to date. Then it doesn't require Bob, I've lost who my people are, Bob doing any internal sales. Do not rely on your champion to sell internally. I would recommend not asking them who they want in the room. You're going to help guide them and say, I'm going to help you with who's in the room. So I'm the sales expert. I got you, Bob. I'm going to make you look so good. In fact, let me write this pitch for you. Here's a 1-pager. Here's a business case. Claude, business case, psychographics, multi-threading. Is anybody recording? Pick up these things. That's it. Let me pass it on. I feel like Michelle hasn't.
Yeah, do you want to contribute? No, I'm all good. Yeah, I was going to say, if you do, I think the most important thing that you can do, let me reframe it. I think if you do discovery well enough, if you qualify well enough, not to say that the pitch, I think the pitch becomes easier if you do discovery and qualification well enough. I think a good product sells itself. I think a pitch should be informative, really clear on next steps. I know that people on the panel might disagree. I just want to make sure I don't get this wrong, because I just want to tell you how we structure our pitches. 10 to 15 slides. We've got a title slide of what we know so far based on our qualification questions, audit findings, an education piece, a fear piece, an urgency piece. If you don't act today, then what's it going to cost your business? The model and how you intend to solve the problem, case studies, pricing, define next steps, FAQs, and then a closing slide. Closing slide. And also, sales is a numbers game. You need to know how many SQLs are coming in, how many of them turn into qualification, discovery, pitch, proposals, and then so on. If you know those numbers well, then you're going to be one step closer to a sale. I did have another point, but my brain is frozen, so I might pass it on. Are you sure you?
One example came to mind in this scenario. The government brought in the new Aged Care Act, and all of a sudden, all of these carers and aged care companies needed to digitise advanced care planning. And because I had done a lot of work reaching out to all of the end-of-life and palliative care organisations, volunteering for them, sending out our product for free, from health departments to Palliative Care Australia, etc. All of that kind of work. When that legislation came out, one of the CEOs of one of these organisations asked if I'd meet with the person in charge of digitising advanced care planning for the federal government. And of course we did. And I ended up advising to the federal government on how do we digitise advanced care planning, and learnt that our product was already at that time 18 months ahead of the ACP digital roadmap. When I went to that initial meeting, I didn't know any of this. And so I'm just talking as bluntly as I talk all the time and saying what we do and what we've learned and who we're working with.
Sorry, Michelle. The mic.
Sorry.
No, all good.
By the second meeting, so we were very fortunate to have investment early on. We never pitched for investment. We actually got investors in a room like this and they walked up to me and said, I want to be on your team. Really lucky and very, very grateful for that. But by the I got off that phone and I called James. So he was the founder of Pet Circle. He exited for a lot of money. It's one of the first 8 unicorns. And I said, James, they're talking about an entire federal rollout and kind of amalgamating all of the states for advanced care planning. I want you on this next call. And I wanted him on the next call to show how serious we were about the topic, to show that we weren't going anywhere, to show that we weren't there to pitch them for a product, to show that we were invested, and also to show that we could do it. And we were already doing it and we could continue to build it, and we had the people there that could support us to do it. So I think everything that everyone said on the panel is correct. It's really about understanding what the person in front of you needs from you and what they need, and giving them confidence. Because to me, sales has nothing to do with numbers, it's to do with people. And all of our B2B clients, the first, second meeting, all I did was listen to their problems and learn about their family and their relationships and their biggest pain points at work. And if they went into product, they did. And I say this to everybody that does sales with me now, all I wanted in those initial calls was for them to get off the phone and think, fuck, Michelle's real. Fuck, she's a real deal. What the hell? What she just said, she did not spill any bullshit on this call. She said what she was doing, and she genuinely wanted to know what I was doing, and if there was any way she could help me. And I think that's a huge, depending again on who you're talking to, it's actually working out. It's just connecting with people and being really authentic. I think that's the most important thing, and you said that before.
We got any questions from the audience? Yeah, sorry.
The question is for Michelle. You went to it looks like you were lucky and you had an investor right from the day one. For me, I don't have investors yet, so I got the burn rate bugging me every day. So how do you handle that though? If you had lucky, you had an investor, but if you don't, how do you handle? Because like you said, it takes a long while to land the first customer. Yeah. The second one is, did you ever go to a consumer market at all? Looks like you went straight to business. Do you ever try the consumer market at all for your product?
So in saying that, I have 2 amazing angel investors. All their money has gone into the business. So I'm at 4.5 years with no wage. I just had savings from previous businesses, so I get it. I don't make money. Everything goes back into Evaheld, and certainly from my investors, everything goes back into Evaheld. Sorry, what was the second part of your question? Yeah, good question. So how I did our outreach, and I did that part all by myself, is I always say to people, forget who's dealing with the problem, go as far to the top as you can. So when I went to home care and aged care and insurance, I went straight to the CEOs every single time. I connected on LinkedIn, I sent emails, they can reject me, that's fine. Even to the CEO of NAB, when we became a member benefit, and I said, we're a NAB customer. I literally, they send out the monthly emails. I wrote back, I connected with him and wrote back and said, we love NAB and we're a customer. Andrew Irvine wrote back to me and said, thank you so much for writing back to me, and I want you to meet with so-and-so, who's the head of health at NAB. So this is one tip that I've lived and that doesn't cost anything. You've got to put yourself out there and go to the top of the food chain, because we don't know every single business, right? So we're here trying to think these are the perfect people I want to speak to. But really, even if they're dealing with the problem, doesn't mean they're a decision maker. Or maybe they're a decision maker, but they're not dealing with the problem, so they actually have no idea why they need your product. I always recommend going straight to the top, because when they go down the food chain and say, meet with this person that's reached out to me, it happens. And as I said before, the first job is making it happen. So that's my biggest tip. Connect on LinkedIn. Any in that you have, take it and go straight to the CEO. Yeah, and this is, and I knew things like this would work. Like, for example, I said before, Camilla Rowland from Palliative Care Australia. That's been amazing. You know, it's a national, amazing, funded organisation, but it's not NAB. I mean, that was a fluke. There's been a few of them, but it's just a numbers game. But go to people that are high up, have great relationships. Like that woman in aged care, every CEO knows her. Everyone respects her. She's out there lobbying for end of life for all of them. Who are the people that have tremendous respect in the industries that you're targeting that you can access, and kind of think, what can you do for them? So for her, it was, I want to give you whoever you want, end of life, your subscribers on your lists, families, end of life, send them an Evaheld vault. She was like, this going to cost you a fortune? Do you really want to do it? I said, of course I do. It's exactly what I want to do. So what can you give people?
Because I feel like part of your question was, you know, you're struggling, right? Like you've got burn rate after burn rate, you're watching money go out the door and you are suffering. There is this stereotype that is almost grandiose of the suffering of founders. Like, I call bullshit. Like, there is a big difference between grind and sacrifice and compromise and suffering. Sometimes I see it with, and don't get me wrong, like, I have $0 income right now. Like, it is brutal. But I have a very, very clear plan and 4 backup plans, right? Like, I'm not going to suffer. I sleep, I eat, and I call bullshit on the 2-minute noodle suffering thing, right? So what I would say to you is, and sometimes when I've seen founders who have been going for, you know, let's say 18 months, just with money out the door, money out the door, money out the door, is I'm seeing a lack of flexibility and I'm seeing a lack of listening. So sometimes that grit is just stubbornness. And actually what you're doing is hiding behind the computer and you're not listening. If you are in front of your customer day after day after day and you are iterating and you are iterating and you are iterating, and I'm not talking about iterating that feature, I'm talking about iterating your direction, your vision, ensure your mission is on point, then keep going, absolutely. But if you are just there on the journey, suffering, and you're not seeing anything, you're doing something is wrong. Like, something is wrong. And so I would be going back and I would be gathering a village. Every founder needs a village. Do not do it on your own. I am an emotive, subjective, big feeling person. I have incredible intuition. I go on my gut a lot of the time. Hence, I don't make big decisions by myself. I have learnt that the hard way. I've got a village of brilliant people, Exhibit A, one of them, and people who have done the most incredible things. And I take bits and pieces from all of them before I make a decision. You can't do it on your, you just can't do it on your own. And I know people say that no, bullshit. It's too hard. It's too brutal. And if you are looking at that burn rate and it's going down, I suggest you put everything down, you get out from behind your computer, you go talk to your customers, you go talk to your peers, and you find out what's going wrong. Sorry.
No, that's perfect.
Sorry.
So we've gone through half the panel without talking about AI. How good is that?
Woo!
So
I definitely mentioned Claude.
Yeah. Well, now here's the big question. Beyond crafting pitch on emails and LinkedIn outreach, how do you use AI in your go-to-market strategies?
All right, I'm going to give you an anti-answer. Please don't use it for human-to-human interaction. Please do not use it to contact your customers unless, I do understand the marketing emails, I do understand updating your customers, but do not pretend it is you, please. Do not replace your human-to-human interaction with your customers or with your employees with AI. Do all of the things, like all of the things that take up minutes, hours, days that allow you to be in front of your customers. What did I say to you earlier today? The baseline for personalization is up here. Like it used to be, I remember like in sales, 6 years ago, writing, hey, like I saw that award you got on LinkedIn, and people were like, wow, she's really done her research, you know? Like now it's like your dog's auntie's, uncle's funeral's fucking cat's wedding. And they're like, yeah, duh. Like there was a podcast about that and like eight things down on Reddit. So like obviously they know. Like fuck, like you literally have to talk to these people. Like voice notes, videos, like it's the only way to do it. That takes time, it takes mental energy, but it works. So please don't use AI for that.
Okay, so we use AI a lot. So does everyone. No, but that's what I'm saying. I'm just going to point out one thing that we use it really well for, and then my point to Lucy's point. So one thing we use it really well for is, again, enterprise sales, a lot of pitch decks, a lot of proposals, really personalised, like super, super, super personalised. And so one thing that it does really well for us is takes all of our discovery call transcripts. We record absolutely everything. Coffee meeting, recorded. Zoom, Google Meets, everything recorded. Even if they set up the call, I'll also record it. Absolutely every data point possible, collected. And then what we do is we take that and we put it into Claude and Claude Design, and it generates, based off our context and template, generates a really beautiful proposal. So that's really helpful. Although my experience has been similar to Lucy's, I have an amazing co-founder and CTO who is incredible at automating absolutely everything in the business. Apart from the fact that the area that it has, I guess, let us down in, or on the flip side that we have preserved as non-AI, is most of the founder-led sales process. Because as much as my CTO is incredible and has tried to do this, it cannot possibly replicate me perfectly, and it can't replicate the nuances of the relationship that I have with that person or I have with that deal. So that's something that we, absolutely do not touch past the point of where it becomes a human interaction. Up until then, that's what I meant.
We do the exact same thing. Like I have an AI agent called Bob connected to OpenClaw, and look, a year ago I wouldn't be able to be at dinner with a friend and voice prompt my agent from sitting at a restaurant saying, hey, build me a sales report. Look at our HubSpot pipelines and do we have any proposals in the proposal stage? Send a follow-up email based on a Fathom transcript from a prospect or a discovery meeting. Look, AI, what can be automated should be automated, and what can be kept human ought to be kept human. I definitely agree with that. But it's here whether we agree with it or whether we like it or not. And if you're not implementing AI, then your competitors absolutely will be. But the difference could be the human element. So we never want to get rid of that.
Yeah, for sure. I think what you said before about suffering is bullshit, I think that's where AI is fantastic. What you can automate. What brings you the biggest stress in your day, try and automate. Insofar as that's literally not speaking to your customers, then you might be in a little bit of a pickle. But anything that you can automate, anything that really gets your anxiety levels up, see if there's a way that you can automate it, except if that's literally talking to your customers, then it's a little bit difficult. But yeah, we use AI for everything. So we've rebuilt our platform. So we're AI, not only are customers using AI within the platform, but the entire platform is built with AI, and it's just, in something that we couldn't have done even a couple of years ago. So for new founders, I think it's a really exciting time where, 10 years ago, our biggest issue was building an MVP and not having a technical co-founder. That's basically eradicated. And so there's two parts. Murray had this saying in our meeting room at UTS, and I don't know who it was, but it was on the wall, and it said that anybody in startups that tell you that startups is about anything other than sales is lying to you. And that's the part that still remains true. So whatever you can do to get in front of, as an early stage startup, to get in front of customers as soon as possible, even if that means this imperfect AI built MVP, just to see what they think, is fantastic, but you've got to keep, that human interaction when you're actually dealing with customers.
We don't have questions. We don't have time for follow-up questions because we're going to close with these questions here. Mistakes when it comes to customers' meetings. So one of the things that I personally find is founder's ego. When you really believe in your product and then you pitched it and then they counter it, even if like the product's actually sometimes got the right fit to the companies, But that's just one of my mistakes that I overcome eventually. What's your personal experience in jumping in like early meetings? And, it doesn't have to be founder's ego, but could be anything. It's personal experience as a founder.
There's so many. I don't even know how to answer that.
We could...
Assuming that I know, assuming that I understand, and I actually do not know what keeps them up at night,
I got a good one. The biggest, I've made so many mistakes, continue to, but I'm not going to bore you with mine. One of the biggest mistakes that I'm seeing right now is people building. And there's a reframe that came to me. It's something I discussed a little while ago. Even with good intention, you going, oh, I have this problem, or hey, I'm experiencing this problem, I'm going to get straight in and I'm going to build a solution for it, right? It is so arrogant that you have decided what the solution to that problem is, and that if you decided exactly that you know what the solution is for the people you're giving it to, it also just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Please do not build, do not code, do not even plan the product. Go and talk to the people who you are building it for and ask them questions. Do not tell them what the product is. Do not pitch the product. Ask them questions about their problems. I did this in the beginning. I pivoted. I've been building Nice Gary for how many months? 4 months. This is my third pivot. And I'm now building beta. Like I built an overnight MVP, fine, but third pivot from talking to trades. And the other thing that I would say, I've even forgotten what the question is. The other thing that I would say is one of the biggest mistakes I've made is talking to, that is it, great. Is talking to a business, getting really deep discovery done, and then making the assumption that I can apply that to every other business that looks like them. Yeah, like one is not enough. It's not as many as you think though. My recommendation would be 15. 15 really in-depth, proper interviews, second and third level questioning. Add that to your list for Claude, second and third level questioning. And that's enough. That's enough to start a prototype and to start testing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was going to say, Lucy alluded to it then. I think, not that this has been, it used to be a big mistake of mine. Like I used to dive into a sales call and just talk and sell. And I think now it's really important to do 80% of the listening and 20% of the talking. And that comes with effective questioning. Tell, never sell. I think, working with red brain, green brain. Red brain is logic, numbers. People don't care about that stuff. Michelle alluded to it earlier. Like you want to hit someone on the emotion. Your product should, the way you sell your product should be based on how someone is going to feel if they purchase your product. So just when you're in a sales call, just stop trying to sell your product and listen to your prospects.
That's literally what I was going to say.
Sorry.
I think like maybe from my lens a bit more, it's really hard to do that when you're like early stage, pretty desperate for customers. You're doing all the outbound. You're like quite literally in your mind trying to like pitch your product to get customers. So it's really hard to like reach out to someone to like theoretically spread awareness about your product while at the same time being like, tell me about your problem. I promise I can solve it. I don't even know what your problem is yet though. So it's like a very hard kind of balance, I think, to reach. But same thing would be like, I did a way too much pitching, not enough listening. And I think Lucy was the one who taught me actually, like, you can spend a whole meeting, even 2 meetings, even 3, just doing discovery, like before you even talk about the product. And that's like a really good sign that you know the customer, you've shown that you've actually dedicated time to understanding whether the product's even going to solve something for them. And it's okay to say to the customer, actually, no, I think we need another session to dive a bit deeper on this. And in my mind, I'm going, oh, but I'm so desperate. I need a customer. And I think Lucy was like, no, you need to make it worth their while, you know. And to do that, you need to understand what you're solving for them.
Also, like if you are doing the discovery, like the discovery doesn't end. The discovery never ends. The discovery, you're doing discovery and implementation. And during discovery, you are selling to them. I think this is part of it. Is like, I'm actually anti-pitch. I'm anti-pitch altogether. If you're doing the right type of discovery, they are literally in front of your face going, oh shit, yeah, I got a problem. This is how I think I'm going to solve it. And then it's like, oh, look at that. Here I am. Hello. How about I help you with that, you know? And also there's a real power. One of my favorite things to do is to get to a point, particularly when you get on the phone. Like, I'm sure you've all got on the phone with somebody and they're like, yeah, don't ask me questions. Just tell me what you do. Tell me what you do. And I'm like, why? Like, it's probably not even for you. You know, like, what's the point? I don't want to waste your time. I'm not going to waste mine. Like, I need at least 5-10 minutes to figure out whether this is even something that you need. It's not for everyone. And I'm not going to be so arrogant as to assume it's for you. Like, would you like me to do that? And then immediately they're going to ask some questions. Okay, fine, you know, whatever. But also, you don't have to give it to everyone. Your first customers particularly, it matters so much who they are. Like if you have even the slightest gut feeling that you're like, I don't know about this, or you're really having to sell it, they're not one of your first customers. They will cause you so much pain. Also, don't be afraid to fire customers. If they are costing you mental load, even though they are paying the most, you are missing out on 10 other customers that you could be bringing on.
I just want to close by saying one thing I think we all do, and I don't want to speak for everyone, is we give up way too quickly. It gets hard. You think, hey, is this worth it? I think Lucy alluded to it earlier. Like, you got to know when to pivot or persevere, but don't give up unless you've exhausted every avenue. Because all that hard work, 6 months, 12 months, 18, 24, however long you've spent on your startup, the worst thing you can do is give up. So just don't give up.
Cool. Thanks. Can we give a round of applause for the panelists? Unfortunately, we don't have time for a Q&A. I think, no, that's great. I think that's what we wanted. But we're going to take a quick 5-minute breaks and we'll bring in a second panelist on board. But yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having us.
Sorry, Michelle.
Thanks, Amy.
Let's go fight.
Thank you, mate.
Henry somewhere, bathroom. But yeah, we're going to start now, and then he'll join us in the middle as well. So, Abdul, if you can start.
Hey, everyone. Oh, there we go. Hey, everyone. All right, so 10 years ago, I graduated with a business degree. And I think, like a lot of people in this room, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I fell into sales. I think that's most of people's stories. But I was blessed where I found myself working at a company called Oracle. So I worked at two big companies, Oracle and then Cisco. After doing that for a while, I decided I wanted to play sales. Henry, RV. Welcome, round of applause for Henry. No, don't apologize. All right. So after working at two big companies, Oracle and Cisco, for some weird reason, I decided I want to play sales in hard mode. So I decided to launch US Startups into APAC. So I did that twice. And now I have the privilege of leading a large sales team at a company called Eftsure. So I have 15 sellers in the team. And our job is to convince CFOs to buy this software that helps them not get defrauded. So that's what I do, and I love it.
Do you want to expand a bit more about Eftsure as well, if you don't mind?
I would love to, absolutely. So Eftsure basically is a solution for CFOs. If you think about any company, like a construction company, every day they're sending money to suppliers. Now, what happens is fraudsters, they get in the way of that process, and basically the company will get an email saying, you did some plumbing for us, we've changed our bank details. So then the company will say, okay, cool, we'll send you 50 grand for that. They'll send the money, it went to a fraudster. So it's a big problem. With AI, it's happening more and more. So the CFO, to verify they're sending it to the right person, they'll call the supplier, and the supplier will answer, and they'll verify that it's them. It was a fraudster, so they're cloning voices now as well. It's a big problem. So any CFOs in the room, hit me up. So yeah, that's what I do. So I manage a team of 15 people, a bunch book meetings with CFOs. The other team closes the meeting. That's Eftsure.
All right. Hey everybody, my name's Henry. I'm with FareHarbor, and we are an online booking software for tour and activity businesses. And what does that mean? That means when you go on a website, let's say you want to go whale watching, right? You go to Manly Whale Watch and you make a booking from that website. We build the booking reservation system for that business, right? And with that comes a back-end distribution management, a few other factors, but on a simple level, it's just a reservation system to bring tour and activity businesses online and give them the ability to sell their experiences directly from their own website. So that's the company I work for. I started there in 2017, and I was lucky enough to be a part of an expansion team that came to Australia to begin the APAC expansion. And we've been here since 2019, and yeah, it's been an exciting time.
I mean, the story how I met Henry is pretty funny as well. Basketball court, and then he was like, he ended up mentoring me around sales and getting me basically my heads into an SDR role. But yeah.
And what I really liked about Eddie was how confident he was. He was extremely aggressive. He made fun of my shot, and he was quite intimidating. So I felt the need to try to one-up him and say, hey, look, you need to get into a professional environment.
So my name is Geoff Main. I've been in marketing for most of my career. I currently have worked on lots of different brands, definitely corporate for the first 14, 15 years of my career. Branched out after finishing at the Cricket World Cup, having done the marketing for that, built Passionberry. Passionberry's job is to solve the marketing problem for businesses. And ultimately the marketing problem is how do you generate more revenue? So what we do specifically, both internally, but also we have a really large group of network of amazing freelancers with multiple skill sets across everything, is to work out what your strategy is. If you've got a business strategy, what's the marketing version of that? What's the sales version of that? How that plays out. Once you know that, then you can work out what your execution plan is, and then you've got to work out how to resource that. And so that's probably the simplest way, because I want to make sure everyone has a chance to ask more questions at the end. So that's Passionberry and Geoff Main.
I am Henny. I just started at CloudBridge for about 4 months now. And at CloudBridge, what we do is I run a GTM campaign. My campaign is focused based on basically solving problem for startup, and part of the GTM focus of solving problem for startup is helping startup through their journey from a startup to scale up and all the way to AWS Marketplace. I love my job because I got to offer a lot of free stuff to startup, like the AWS Cloud Credit and stuff. So this job is really suited for me because I myself was a startup 10 years ago, 3 failed startup later, and here I am today.
Cool. So second panel is going to be a bit different because this is going more on the commercial side and talking to industry leaders as well. So something that people not familiar is sales processes. How do you each define your own sales processes in your own companies? We've got Medic, we've got Band, a lot of different ways for you to filter that campaign from an SQL to qualified leads to first meetings and so on. So I'd like to open this up to Henry as well.
Okay. FareHarbor has a sort of a non-traditional beginning as a SaaS company because we really highly leverage a really big sales force with lots of calls. Some of these guys are in the audience today. So our approach typically is to do a first interaction with a client over a phone call. We benefit from having a massive database of information. I think that's our strength. So we house a lot of info in our CRM, which allows us to understand the size of the business, the stakeholders within the business, the competitors of the business, so that when our AEs reach out to these clients, they're equipped with a lot of information. And then they move on to a phase where they do a bit of discovery, where that's a qualified discovery opportunity. So you can think of every lead existing in our CRM as pre-qualified. And then there's a discovery process to understand the unique pain points and challenges of that client, and kind of going in the middle market sort of explanation. And then we get into a demonstration where ideally we have an opportunity to close the client. So very, very simple. First outreach, which between the first outreach and discovery can be like an iterative process of building trust and learning new and more information. But once it becomes a qualified demo opportunity, you must do the discovery to have the demo to close the lead.
Is there specific methodologies that you use from discovery to qualified?
So when I say a lead is pre-qualified in our CRM, there's certain factors. I mean, we have a unique business structure where our biz dev team, business development team, does not interact with any of these clients. Because we work in the online space and we monetize the online sales channel, every single client is exposed to us. It's a B2B business, right? So we know how much traffic they get through their website. We know how many customers they might get. We can estimate that through TripAdvisor reviews, Google reviews, and things of that nature. And then we can use different research tools online to figure out who the stakeholders in that business actually are. So if anybody's interacting with the lead, it's already been pre-qualified in that sense. And then once we're able to create an opportunity where there's a need that's been exposed, then we can drive a demo opportunity. Does that make sense? So it's not any sort of like traditional acronym model, but I mean, it may align with particular models that you might hear.
So I'm going to share an analogy and then a real-life example that I applied at Eftsure. So what is the sales process? So it's actually 2 things. There's the sales process. Think of that as when you put, you're going to Macca's and you put that in your GPS. The directions, that's the sales process. The coordinates where you are in that moment, on that journey, that's the qualification. So process is where you're going, qualification is where you are. Now, why is that a big thing in sales, specifically for me, enterprise sales? If you don't know that, you're kind of lost, but you don't know you're lost because you're moving and you're like, oh yeah, I'm moving, but the deal's not closing because you don't actually know where you're going. Now, when I joined Eftsure, we had a little bit of a sales process, but we hadn't actually empathized with our prospects as to what they want. So this is what I realized. I was watching all of these sales calls and I realized that the financial controller or the CFO at the end of the call, they would say 2 things. I need to speak to my team, and then I need to decide if I want to speak to my bosses. What would we do? Here's the price, here's the business case, fingers crossed, and then we'll call you 5 times to see if you did it. That obviously wasn't the right approach. So we added a sales process. We said, okay, after we do our first meeting, we send our price, then we give them a business case and we equip them to go to their board or leadership. And then we offer a deep dive technical demo for their AP officers or the actual daily users. And that boosted sales, lo and behold. Why? Because we figured out their journey and we followed them there and we guided them and helped them there. But we also figured out like where we are. The GPS example resonates.
It's interesting because obviously I'm from a marketing background, but I'm very commercial. So marketing's number one metric is revenue. It's interesting because I look at it from a customer journey perspective. So every way that they could possibly find you, how they come at you, all those sort of pieces. And it's interesting listening to the sales process. And I'm like, yeah, but that's part of the marketing process, which is also part of the sales process. So Adam, when he was talking earlier, smarketing, no. The key word in sales and marketing is and. It's together. And marketing impacts every single touch point in an organization. The amount of times I get referrals from my customer support team with one specific client, which is an NDIS, is ridiculous, but it is complete common sense. So everything that you're building across a sales and marketing function has to be taking all the learnings from every single part, because sales is also not just the conversion, it's the retention, it's the upsell, it's the potential referral, it's how do you take them from a customer to being a raving loyalist. And so that is part of both the sales and marketing piece. So when I'm looking at the sales process, the key thing I always say is how are you providing value, and always be providing value. Sometimes it's understanding that you need to solve their problem, even if that is not you. If you help someone solve the problem, you may not be the right person right now. For example, when someone wants my marketing help, I'm always happy to try and give a good mentoring session, and my focus is always, okay, what are the 3 to 5 key things you'd love to solve right now? Or what is the key challenge you've got? Or if I could magically wave a wand, what would I do? And I'll give you that. And they come, okay, what's your budget? Well, it's just me, and I have 5 customers, and this is how much revenue I've got. And I'm like, well, and it was alluded to, someone wanted to get me to talk to their customers, and I said, you could pay me to do that, but then I would be doing an absolute disservice to you. You are the founder. You are literally trying to understand the problem you're trying to solve, the product you need to build. You need to understand the nuances of what they're telling you. You need that experience. You cannot, in any circumstance, give that to someone else in the early stage. And so they did not become a customer. Now, I know, because I've been doing this for 12, 13 years where it's been my own business, I know that other people who have gone through that session have told other people to come and have a conversation with me. I guarantee about 85% of those have still not been customers. But there is a sense, and I don't have brand monitoring data to back this up, right? But I have people refer me people all the time, and generally they'll be high value people. Most of my targets come from VC funds because I've helped make certain VCs make a lot of money, and so they like that to be a repeatable process. So the 2 clients I've just picked up while I was in the US, they've come back and said, well, I got a call from someone like, well, how did you find me? Adrian said I needed to speak with you, and I needed to speak with you now. And I'm like, well, I'm technically on holiday. We launch in 6 weeks. This is 2 weeks ago. Okay, let's jump on a call. Here is my time zone. I don't know if I can help you, but if it's not me, I will put you in touch with a marketer or someone who can help you right now. Now, that is now a client, which is great, but I'm sharing that in the sense of it's a mindset. And if you think about it as a process or a funnel, that's useful as one framework, but it is not the entire picture. So sometimes you can get into the process part, and these guys are very smart and they get it right. But sometimes you need to take a step back and look a bit more broader and go, what else are we doing? And how else could we do that? Because sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean that you're following every buyer signal digitally. And that'll do for now.
How can I top that? So I look at sales process like dating. You ask a question, they tell you things. You ask the right question, they will tell you a lot more. So my sales process always, for me, myself, and my team, start from the customer and work backwards. When you ask a question in the qualification stage, I like to guide my team and implement this myself to follow the SPIN methodology. And when you're doing the qualification, you follow the MEDIC methodology. There's not just one methodology for every single stage of the sales. It's like dating, right? First date is different to the second or third date, right? I mean, don't even get me started on the basis, but, you know. So.
You can open up on that.
So that's how I will describe sales process.
Cool. So just continuing on the second question, and I'm going to skip this Q&A because second question is going to be the second Q&A. Selling across market, how do each one of you define your market? So there is SMB, mid-market, and enterprise, but every company's defined them differently. So some of them define them from headcount, some of them define them from tractions or, you know, traffics in your case, company valuations. So how do you define small, medium, and enterprise market on your end?
Yeah, so good question for us. If you think about it, the way FareHarbor has always worked is we take a transaction from the online sale, right? We've monetized the direct online sales channel. So, of course, you have businesses that get a lot of traffic, right? That would be more of your enterprise size, and they're turning over 1 million plus online through that online sales channel. Then you have maybe your mid-market businesses, which might range from, you know, you might be like, I don't know, 250K to $1 million. And then you have small business, which is anything below that. And then almost non-existent business, if you will, businesses that do, you know, very, let's say, what's the word I'm looking for? Modest sort of, you know, maybe they're the growth focus, right? So that's how we segment everything off. And then we have like a secondary segmentation that might be based off of how big is the company employee count, and is it really a strong hierarchical structure that requires multi-threading, for example, which somebody in the panel mentioned earlier. You know, there's different sales techniques that are involved in an enterprise deal that don't necessarily need to be imposed on a medium-sized deal. However, we have a unique industry where you may have a business that's like a mom and pop shop. They've just monetized whale watching in some random part of, you know, Jarvis Bay, and they turn over millions, right? Is that an enterprise deal in terms of revenue? Absolutely. In terms of sales process? Absolutely not, right? So you have to be somewhat adaptive to understand what that means and what's required and the personnel you need to bring to the table.
Our one's very simple. We have SMB, mid-market, and enterprise. Enterprises deals over 80K, and that's linked to just revenue. And then mid-market's around 30K, and then SMB's around 5K. So they're our three teams.
I'm going to go back to your point. It's understanding who they are and what they need. So the way I'm like, we already know at the start of one founder, a few AI agents, building out whatever system can be a truckload of dollars. But the approach for how you manage that and then matching that to revenue can be exceedingly different. So it's taking an approach of, okay, well, what is it that you do best? So for example, I look at very much being clear on my target audience. It's not the amount of 2 or 3 founder teams. Some of them will be at high revenue, some will be at, say, medium revenue, but then what's the profitability? And therefore that might give an indicator of how they might invest. How might they have already had a success or not? So we look at that as buyer characteristics sometimes, but I'm actually trying to work out, are they someone who actively wants to grow, who understands the challenges and will give you enough rope to be able to execute those? And sometimes I've got clients who spend no more than $3,000 a month with me, and the one I'm trying to sign at the moment is at $25K a month, which would be great. But the process for assessing those is still very much the same. But how I'm approaching the 25K, it's going to be easier to work with some of those types of customers than the 3K ones, because If you're the one who it's your hard-earned dollars at 3K, super hard to deal with, and I love them. And when they see this video, I do love you guys. But it can be painful to be able to get certain things done. And so, again, it's about the approach and the value. Like, the other way I look at it, I've got clients who've been 3K a month or 2K a month who've been with me for 10 years. I've got 25K a month clients who've been with me for 3 months. Sometimes you can't tell which one's going to be here with you the longest, but that's part of the qualification process we all go through to understand how long is that problem they need us for. And ultimately, I also try and make sure that they don't have to keep using us. It's a really weird philosophy. I really want to build a marketing team for someone so that they can run it themselves and they can grow and they're not reliant on me. Because if you build any part of your business reliant on 1 or 2 people, you can't scale. And because the difficult thing, if we're wanting to be global or even if we want to be national, the thing that you're competing against is time. Because you're competing against 5 AI startups in Sydney doing the same thing versus the other 5 in Melbourne versus the other 5. So it's understanding those pieces and getting clear on what is absolutely crucial for you and what is nice to have or you're not so sure about.
Sometimes the hardest thing is knowing when to say no, isn't it? Yeah, no. At CloudBridge, we define startup, SMB, and enterprise based on AWS because we are AWS partner. So for startup is less than 100 million, but less than 10 years old as well.
Is that the credits or?
For the credits, yeah. For AWS credits for startup, segmentation is less than 10 years old and less than 100 billion. That will be classified as a startup.
Abdul, you passed the mic really quickly there. I just want to ask additional questions to you. You mentioned revenue. How'd you get that revenue out? Was that through LinkedIn or was that through ASIC or was that through Discovery Meeting?
So the revenue variable, we use 2 data sources. One is ZoomInfo, and if ZoomInfo fails, and oftentimes in Australia it does, we use this really great company called Firmable. I'm pretty sure it's an Australian company, and it's been good enough. And if we can't find it, we just assume it's SMB, and it's usually right.
Cool. Any question? Apollo.io?
We have, but at the moment, no. But yeah, I believe that's pretty good.
So did you say that second one was Firmable?
Yeah, Firmable. That's the company. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. All very good answers. I might direct this at you, Abdul, because your experience in enterprise sales. If you were joining a company and their main bag was enterprise clients, but they don't have any customer stories or case studies, what would you do to get in front of those enterprise clients, knowing that the smaller clients aren't really going to gain you revenue, but you have to get through them to present yourself in front of the bigger clients, which is the main goal?
Just to play back the question, so I'm going to work for a company that hasn't sold to enterprise, but wants me to sell to enterprise. I would negotiate a really high base salary, first of all. Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I was in a very similar situation but we had enterprise clients in US, and Australians, they don't care if you have enterprise clients in US. They want to see 2-3 friends of theirs that have enterprise clients. I think it's just a negotiation with the business. Like, in order for me to land these types of deals, I need X amount of resources, I need X amount of marketing dollars, and then it's about like, all right, let's say you define your ICP, you get all your enterprise accounts, and it's the top 100 accounts in Australia. Then it's about like going deeper into, okay, what is the center of the bullseye? So I got my bullseye, but what's the center? And in this particular example, we ended up closing Atlassian, and the reason for that was someone had used this software in US, and then they moved to Australia and they worked for Atlassian, so that they were a champion. So we're able to like just take that, the bullseye and go find the center, keep hacking away at it, keep begging for resources from US, and we got it done. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's about like, hey, if you want me to, like, I'm a salesperson, I'm not a magician, I can't hypnotize these enterprise accounts and just land them. So I'll do X, Y, Z, but I will need A, B, C. And a lot of it is the internal selling. So I always, the way I see my approach is I'm not a sales leader that does sales, I'm a business leader that does sales. And that's about like being able to make an internal business case to the team that these are the resources that are needed. But that's after negotiating the higher base salary.
So I think given a couple of questions, and Lucy pointed out as well around champion building, I'm going to scrap one of the last questions and focus on champion. So this was not in the script. You guys are going to have to go along with it. But keep in mind it's going to be the last questions on the board. So next question is around, so when it comes to sales, there's two types of things, or if there's more, feel free to add on. In my opinion, there is build versus buy and rip versus replace. So if you're building a solutions for a software company, if you're building solutions for businesses as a software company, you either create a solutions that's not in the market, replacing the current traditional use, or you build a solutions where they have a core solutions, but you're looking to replace it. So the pitch is between build versus buy and rip versus replace. Just based on your experience, FareHarbor, there's a few competitors in the market as well. Has your pitch been always rip versus replace or build versus buy? Are people using Excel to do those, customers, bookings and stuff? Or have they had solutions in the market already?
Yeah, there's definitely solutions in the market, right? So, I mean, that would align more with rip and replace, would you say?
And how would you pitch around that?
I think just to quickly give context, like FareHarbor started in the US in Hawaii, and that's a really good test market for us because we were able to build a pretty comprehensive travel and activity tours booking product in that market, which we scaled into the United States, and then we eventually scaled into Australia and a few other countries. But one of the challenges we were trying to overcome is how do we get the market to understand what is different about what we offer versus our competition? And there's a couple of key differences. One is acquisition. We had a very big sales force. They made tons of calls, and they really got into the nitty-gritty of what customer needs were. And I think someone on the previous panel mentioned before, you need to speak to your customers. The first company we worked with was a sailing catamaran in Hawaii. Back in 2014, they're still with us today, right? So we learned how to sail before we sailed, if that makes sense. Okay, bad joke. But the idea basically is that we had to understand the needs of that customer and then fully build a platform that was built around what that customer required, which is a pretty strong ICP, which we were able to scale out and then incrementally add product. But because we were hands-on with it and we were a strong sales force, our competitors were more marketing driven, where they'd have really powerful marketing campaigns and then people would download a product, but they'd have to build a lot of external systems around it. So it's a cheaper product. Ours is much more comprehensive. So we had to educate the market in terms of what the booking software could actually achieve to then give them the bigger picture to understand the justification of the price difference, which was pretty astronomical in comparison. And it played out in our favor during COVID because given it being a transaction-based model, we didn't have any upfront costs to bring clients on board. So we were able to acquire a lot of what our competition was doing because they were charging monthly fees, and they adapted their model to try to match ours afterwards. So I think that's pretty good indication that we did the right thing.
Henny, come on.
For us, it's a lot about how the company wanted to scale. When it comes to rip and replace, not so much as build versus buy.
Yeah. Because there is a few cloud solutions out there.
Yeah, like Azure migrating to AWS. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And
Microsoft right here.
So it's more on that and more about understanding why they can't scale with their current infrastructure. A lot of the time, people are not resistant on change, but they are, more resistance when it comes to rushing for the change. When you rush, you break things, right? So when it comes to rip and replace or migration, as we call it, it's more about what are you trying to solve and why are you not scaling right now? Again, it's back to customer and work backwards.
So I'll stick with enterprise. I'll stick with product and tech because I've got a few examples which are consumer products. So the key thing around this is understanding what exactly do they want or need and everything else. To just make that decision, you need to get them to have a conversation with you in the first place.
Yeah.
So if you're someone who's going to sell something at them, you're going to have someone listen for facts but not listen with emotion, and they're not going to connect. So when I'm looking at build or buy, rip and replace, my job is to, again, solve their problem. So I need people to feel like if they come to my brand, my business, that they're going to have an experience where they're going to get the right answer. And that's technically sometimes hard to do. It's easier when you're a startup and you're scaling and you keep the culture within the business. Working with Like Family, for example, they've got a brilliant story, NDIS platform, connecting people who need care with carers. But built by Matt and Jenna, and they've been able to keep the culture of what that business is about, which is making sure we have a lot of the systems in place to make sure that you're choosing the right person. And if we can't find the right one, we handhold you through the process. Or when we have got the right opportunities, we can highlight those, but then other people find out that who might be using us, I had no idea you also provide this other service. So there's an element of rip and build might be the right option for some. Building it yourself might be the right option. Going and finding your own carer might be the right option. But I don't know if I've made the right choice as a consumer. And not fixing that problem causes a truckload of problems no matter what industry or what product you are. Did I make this right choice? And then mentally replaying the buying decision, did I make the same thing for the next month, the next week, the next year, everything else, causes a mental load. And understanding that that's also a part of not only every B2B decision process that we have to go through, but it happens to consumers all the time. So the more that you can make things easy, the more that you can reduce friction, the more that you can solve the problem that they're not telling you as much as the problem that they are telling you. That is actually what will define what the right answer is. But more importantly, that's an answer for right now. If they come to you and they get a response where they feel like they can trust you, that you are providing a solution truly for you, that still remarkably differentiates you versus 99% of the different types of organizations that they deal with. That actually becomes a way for you to stand out and a way for you to win in a market where a lot of things don't allow you to do that because you take shortcuts.
I was going to ask around build versus buy because it's easy to build now, with AIs and stuff, but you pretty much answer all those questions already. So we can...
It's easy to build something.
Well, it's easy to build...
It's easy to use AI, and I love when someone talks about, I use AI and it does a lot of posts for me and everything else, and I go, that's wonderful. I love average marketing out in the marketplace because it makes my marketing look even better. So you're not competing against the fact you've now got content out, and I'm happy that content was going out because that was the step that she needed to get to when she was talking about it on the earlier panel. But if you want to create great marketing or great content or great whatever, it needs to be tailored. It needs to have an understanding of your ideal customers. It needs to have their language, and you need to give all of that context. So I could build a solution right now that maybe helps me with my dashboards, but then I have to fix it or I have to change it or I have to do something and everything else. And that's providing extra context to the solution that you're looking for. And again, a lot of these frameworks or thinkings are the same things that you might see in a lot of different industries, a lot of different styles that have nothing to do with sales and marketing. Dating. common sense, how you should be valued as a person, what karma's like all of these things. If you understand who you are as a person and you bring that and your best self to whatever you do, work, play, sport, art, whatever, I guarantee you what you learn in one place will apply to every other part of your life.
I enjoyed the answer so much, I forgot the question.
No, that's all right. You can hold on to that. So this next question, I want everyone to think about something as well, because a lot of you guys are founders or salesperson. We're diving deep into objection handling. So for every one of you, you've had experience either personally selling or managing a salesperson at some point. What's the most common objections that you get stuck with, and what's the counter arguments in your case?
I actually wrote a bunch of these down in preparation. Okay. Just let's see where I put these. Okay. And I have my guys in the audience as well, just to back me up a little bit. But I would say, just off the top of my head, timing. Well, it starts with we don't have the money for this, right? Is typically the response. Do they have the budget to afford this, or the economy is really poor? When has the economy not been bad, right? So there's lots of these sort of what we call smoke screens that can get thrown your way. So I would not actually necessarily build some sort of decision matrix that's fully beholden to what they're saying at that time. But what I actually would do is I would actually try to understand where they're coming from. There's a very basic process you can follow. Let all the objections come out, empathize, give them the space, reduce the pressure, repeat that back to them so that they know you're on the same page before you even begin to think about giving any sort of answer to what they're saying. That's how you can continue to refine to understand the true objection. I think if you do a good enough job through the discovery process, you should be able to link it right back to the value, and you should be able to have presented some sort of vision that's aligned with their vision, right? Every business has a vision for where they'd like to go. Change is a requirement, right? The world is constantly changing. You need to adapt. And if you understand where they're trying to go, the way that you get there may not be exactly what they want, but the principle behind it is aligned with that company's values. So it goes back to empathy, understanding where they're coming from, refining that process, communicating that you're on the same page. And even if there's still rejection, I will tell you right now, you should be able to walk away with that, to go back to your team and say one of two things. This is not a good fit for our business, or this is how we have to address our product to get there. And then you have to consider, how does that align with our other customers, and does it really make sense given our customer base to adapt the product to fit that, right? How much energy is that going to take? And if the answer to those questions is not necessarily a huge gap of time, then your only sort of objection is time, not right now, right? And in tours and activities, software, generally speaking, every day we wake up, we open our phones, we open our laptops, we're pissed off at some app or something that has gone wrong. We've chosen to tolerate some aspect of our day-to-day workflows that we've just chosen to accept, right? And the difference between us making that change is that being communicated to us in a very clear way, with the reduction of the amount of time and effort it takes for us to get there. And that comes down to sales messaging, that comes down to marketing, right? You have to be able to communicate that message clearly, and you have to reduce the friction of change. And if you can communicate those two things, then, and if it's a good market fit and it is an ICP for your customer base, then boom, it's just a matter of timing, right? There you go.
Objection handling. I have a hot take on objection handling. The title, objection handling, I think that reveals how salespeople approach it. So, growing up in sales, this is how we were taught to objection handle. The trainer will come out and they'll say, when the prospect says this is the 5-punch combo that you're supposed to give. And I did that for a while, and then I realized, no, the way we think about it is flawed. Objection handling. Imagine you walk into Harvey Norman and you tell the salesperson, I'm deciding between the Dyson or the Roborock. And they go, no, you need to buy the Roborock. 5 other people bought it. This is why it's faster, it's quicker. This is why you should buy it. You're not going to walk away and be like, I bought the Roborock because that guy or girl handled my objection really well. So I want to reframe it. And so that's why when I hear objection handling, I want to reframe it to understanding the no. I know it sounds corny, but follow me. So understanding the no is when a prospect says to me, it feels a bit expensive. Rather than saying, well, I'm going to give you a better price and handling the objection with the 5-punch combo, What we're trying to embrace is understanding the no by asking, like, okay, so is it expensive because you don't have budget, or you wouldn't be able to buy it if it was $0? And then like pausing and figuring out what's the real objection. Then they'll say, oh no, it's been a tough quarter, so now's not the time. So now I've got the actual objection, which is, I like it, but I can't buy it right now. So that's what we're navigating right now versus the usual, like, I don't want to, I'm happy with my current process. Well, you shouldn't be, because this other customer got defrauded. It doesn't work. It makes people feel kind of dumb almost. And obviously we don't want that. There is one thing that kind of shaped my opinion on this. There's this really great article by HBR. I forgot the guy who writes it, but it's called Sense Making in Sales. I read it like a year and a half ago. Please write it down. I've been thinking about it since. And it moves away from handling objections to helping the buyer make a decision. Isn't that the problem we all have right now? Like, there's too much information. If you want to buy a vacuum, right? I bought one recently, that's why it's just top of mind. But oh my God, it's so annoying. There's 15 versions. You have to do a PhD on the topic. But you go to Harvey Norman, you get a good salesperson, and they just kind of like navigate you through it. It's really helpful. It's actually, someone had another hot take on TikTok. Someone's like, that's the reason influencers are big now, because they curate the information for you. So if there's like a salesperson you follow or a fashion person you follow them because they've kind of distilled that information down and curated it for you. And that's why it's powerful. And I think as a salesperson, when we jump on a call, we're trying to be that expert. So with a fraud expert, we're going to tell you stories and give you information you can't find on ChatGPT and that you can't Google. And that's what the value is. I don't know how I went from objection handling to that, but yeah.
Now, going back to vacuum cleaners, you two have nailed it, so I'm just going to add a couple of key points, I think. Again, reducing the friction, which requires you to understand, it requires you to listen, and it requires you to hypothesize. So they'll give you a response, and there's probably about 4, 5, 6 different ways you could take that response. So you try not to ask a question that's too detailed. So when it's talking to valuers, it's like, oh, well, what else would you compare it to? Because I'm trying to work out, are they seeing the value because it's a $5, so when we might go to events and it's a $10 beer, whereas at the pub it's a $5 beer, whereas at Big W it's maybe $3 a can. Our perception of what is value changes to sometimes in the environment, the timing, and anything else. But it also is about what that person's belief is. So someone may have a belief around, I would absolutely pay someone $100 an hour to do something. So whether it's cleaning a house or it's whatever's really important to them. And I learned that because working in fast-moving consumer goods, it's understanding why people buy toilet paper and what type. If you're not interested in a category and you need it functionally, you will buy a cheaper end toilet paper than females who need the scented floor ply, comes in the right level of sheets, and it's because that's important to me. I have great perception in the value of that product. Now, what someone will say is a good price or a bad price will depend on the two different extremes you were dealing with, but you need to understand or take the signals of where someone's at. And if someone's not really doesn't really care about the platform or the fact that someone's going to pay a $3 fee because I just need to make it easy for me, then you can sell the features of your platform specifically to that person in a different way than you would with someone else. And that requires listening, understanding, and really truly getting to the crux of what they're telling you and what they're not telling you.
Totally with both of you. Understanding how your customer buy. I got asked this question a lot. How did CloudBridge make money? Because we help assess eligibility for AWS Cloud Credit up to 100K Cloud Credit. We give away complimentary security posture assessment. We also give complimentary FinOps assessment. We also help with AWS funding for implementation. So I got asked this question a lot, how CloudBridge make money. So it got to do a lot, I feel, that it got to do a lot with trust. When you build that trust, that objection is handled. My answer is very simple. Every time I got asked this question, well, you guys don't pay because you guys are startup, so AWS loves startup. AWS pay us to bring you to AWS. That's it, simple.
Any question from the audience? Any objection? Yeah, go for it.
Any thoughts on cold, like outbound, just cold emailing, cold calling, general thoughts on that? I think cold calling is definitely necessary, especially if it's B2B, because you need to know who you're dealing with and you need to know how to align your messaging with the market. And there are things that change on a weekly, daily basis that if you're not aware of, you just will not be able to speak to people. And earlier we talked about how marketing is informed by sales. How can you then scale to marketing if you don't know what's being said in conversations? What's funny is I'm from the US, so someone earlier mentioned that in the US, people are much more driven by competition. That's an absolute fact. I noticed that when we came here. You could say, we'll make you more money, and then people are like throwing their credit card on the table, you know what I mean? Here, it's much more about cohesiveness, and it's about like sort of what is my neighbor doing? So what we found is that, and these guys in the audience can attest, after a certain number of cold calls, people feel as though they're getting harassed, and that's a very uncomfortable position to feel like you're in. So you really have to have strong messaging. A little trick to that, I think, is to be able to offer value, and I really like what you said earlier. Give them something you cannot find on Google or through the ChatGPT. Maybe that's information real time about what your clients are doing to succeed. That's not independently grabbable. And then what you said earlier, offering value through partnerships, right? Maybe they partner with a company that you know about and you can introduce them. You get no immediate benefit from that, but you've offered value to them in a conversational way that allows you to continue a conversation even though it's no right now. I find the most visceral no's that you get come from when people don't feel as though you're listening to what they have to say and you're out of touch. You're just in a call booth and you're going through your list, right? That's the most visceral no you get. An emotional no, I think, is a good thing because it takes so many no's to get to the center of what you want to get to. So you have to go through maybe 10, 12 no's to get there. So if it's emotional no, then you've hit the right nerve. The worst no is when they ignore you, right? Then you have to figure out how to capture their attention. But I think a no is a good thing. Yeah. Cold emailing, same thing, right? We actually have a person on our team who now sends letters to people because it's the way to cut through the noise. So handwritten letters with some candy, send it over. Everyone's got a massive inbox, right? Like, so do something a little bit outside the box, I'm trying to think of the most ridiculous things we've done. I mean, we've done a lot of things.
LinkedIn voice message?
Leaving voice messages, getting angry voice messages back, getting angry emails back, getting threats. I've gotten threatened a few times, I have to say. Yeah. Yeah. All the time. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, understanding what your product is might be like a difference, right? Like for us, we benefited from everything kind of being exposed online, so that kind of gave us like a very, very focused style of outreach where we're not necessarily trying to gather business information, but I mean, I'll tell you right now, I mean, again, you can ask some of the guys on the team when I'll introduce you to them. I think it still works, right? For example, this guy over here, Reggie, we have these things called call blitzes, and we were doing this years ago, right? And, on a random blitz, right, he just decided to call someone. And you'll never get somebody at the right time if you don't call, right? Right time, right place, right moment, right level of frustration. Something's not working, the person's not getting back to them. That would never happen if you don't actually make the call. And they're definitely not going to reach out to you. So that's like, and I think that was an asymmetric advantage for us because we were willing to hire a big sales staff and just had them pounding the phones, harassing people. We just made it fun so they enjoyed it, right? Some of them are still here today,
So I'll give you a tactic that works. So it's 1 degree of separation because obviously you've got to pick your messaging and you've got to pick your channel. Standard marketing stuff, all goes. So one of the things that and I'm going to give a Murray Herbst example. Let's say, hi Sean, it's Geoff Main from Passionberry Marketing. Just wanted to let you know, Murray Herbst suggested I give you a call. Have you got a couple of minutes to speak? He wanted me to have a chat with you. So I'm using someone else who they know to go, okay, I wonder what this is about. Plus there's a trust point that he knows Murray, I know Murray, this kind of works well. What exactly can you help with? And so then you go into the next piece. Now that's obviously not cold in the traditional way of defining cold, but in the sense of providing value or a touch point or a reason for why I would want to take 2 minutes of your time, because I'm trying to essentially pick up the next 15 or 30 seconds is how we would do it in sales. But it's more of a setting the scene of, he said you needed some marketing help. Is that the case? Might be how I might use the language. And that has worked very well, because it may not necessarily lead to a conversion, but it generally leads to a proper conversation. And if you've highlighted your audience and been really clear that you've got a core target, that will work well. And there's variations off that, but the idea is, okay, how am I either providing value or how am I providing a reason to listen, to get this person to listen, in the sense of, and they might say, hey, listen, marketing's not really what we're focusing on right now. And I go, that's completely cool. Mindful that you may need help in the future. Would it be okay if I sent you a quick email so that you know who we are? So when you do need help, because I know that you're scaling, go back to the KPI. So there's a variation of those, but I found that works a lot better than cold. And it's the same thing of picking out, there's lots of cold emails going out. Inboxes are flooded. Right. So zig when others zag. It's like we know that the AI sales calls are already coming. So that's why in-person is so important the next 6 months and other reasons. So there has to be some way of why I would get in contact with you, and you have to leverage those if you then want to do a scale around an AI sales call, because it's around, it's easy when they've been already on your CRM. It's more the case of we just wanted to follow up and make sure everything's going okay with X. The cold piece, you've just got to really find a really good point that's going to be enough to go, yes, I want to have the conversation.
Cool. So unfortunately we ran out of time, but I think great question would be champion building. So if you guys have questions, we've got 8 panelists that you can talk to around that as well. But I'd love to take the first panelist back on stage again. And everyone, if you can leave one message to the room, could be anything, could be AWS credit that you're pitching as well. So startup or project that you're building, but I'll pass it along. So yes. Or you can take my seat, Ed, if you want. Amy, do you want to take my seat? Go for it. Okay, that's all right. So I'll just pass the mic along. Yeah.
Okay. My message is that as a founder, you can do way more than you probably think you can.
It's brutal. It's really, really hard. And when you feel like it's really, really hard, it's because it is. And just find your village and don't give up. And the other thing I have is I am looking for somebody who can help me with social media. Thank you so much.
All right, so I get the gist that there's one plug, right? I plug something and then I say a message for the audience. All right, so my plug is, guys, when you make a booking, don't go to Get Your Guide, don't go to TripAdvisor, Viator, don't go to Klook. Go to a company's website, do your research, put money back into these companies' pockets. They're getting hounded online. And they own the product, right? You're running a whale-watching business. You have to pay your staff. You have to pay the freaking, the ship captain, all of these things. You have to feed the whales, you know what I mean? So pay them, right? Don't pay these OTAs, this like online travel agencies. The second piece, I would say, in sales, there is no such thing as a final no. There's a no right now if you're listening and you're willing to adapt. So that's it. Definitely not.
They were great. I've got a really deep one. Success is getting what you want out of life. Therefore, wanting the right thing is the most important thing. So spend a lot of time figuring out what you want. I'm still doing it. And second thing, if you want to be in sales, hit me up.
If you're going to be a founder, know that you'll want to spend 5 to 10 years solving their problems, to be really, 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 really passionate about it and love it and enjoy it. And I'm going to reiterate what Lucy said. You have to surround yourself with a community of people who are potentially able to help with expertise and everything else, because you're going to have a whole range of questions and you want to learn from other people's screw-ups and other people's successes so that you make less of those and you're more likely to succeed. So join UTS Startups, join Stone or Chalk if you really want to go down road, but surround yourself with a community of people.
Always start from your customer and work backwards, be it in a build stage or in a scale stage or later on when you're in the enterprise space. Never forget to be useful for your customer.
Awesome. I think one of the best things that you can do is get yourself a mentor. I don't know if many people have spoken about it tonight. Apologies if someone did mention it. But I think it's arguably the most valuable thing you can do when getting into business is find someone, whether they're in your category or not, just someone with experience, with a proven track record. Reach out to them. It's a numbers game at the end of the day. You're probably not going to get the first person you reach out to agree, but try get a mentor, a coach, someone that can educate you properly and help you go down the path, because they're going to help you not make the same mistakes that they've made. And I'd like to offer my own services for that. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Always happy to offer free advice, catch up for a coffee and see if I can help.
Cool. We get a round of applause for the panelists.
Reach out to all of us on LinkedIn. You would be silly not to. You've got a reason to cold email us or cold DM us. Saw you at a panel. Would love to know more. Do it. No worries, mate.
Cool. Can we invite the UTS startup teams? Oh, sorry, yeah. Please. There you go. Can we invite the UTS startup team to come on stage and just talk a little bit about what's coming up?
Amazing. Thank you guys for coming so much. And I just want to say a round of applause for Eddie for organizing this event, and BuildClub, bringing together such fantastic panelists. And all the panelists, thank you so much. It was such an insightful conversation. Before we wrap up, I'll just take a minute of your time. Put your hand up if you are building something. Yeah? Amazing. So BuildClub and UTS Startups are launching a AI build sprint. It's for anybody who has tried to use any AI products and has thought, oh my God, I'm going to make $1 million with this, but hasn't. We'll be going through some of the fundamentals that all the panelists have talked about, which is, talking to your customer, thinking about your go-to-market, and importantly, we'll be connecting you to some amazing mentors, sponsors, and partners where, we'll be giving you some tokens, other things to be able to build. This will be an incredible 8-week sprint. We're opening up our expression of interest, so please scan that QR code and you'll be the first to know. It'll be a limited sprint. It's going to be really incredible. Eddie, Andrew, all of these guys will be part of it. And again, thank you so much for coming to this event. I'll just pass it on to Andrew.
Hello. I hope you have thoroughly enjoyed tonight. I am Andrew. I'm the current global community lead of BuildClub. And one last thing, we didn't put it on the slides because it literally just launched like 5 minutes ago. But our next event is going to be a founders and investors exclusive coffee chat over next Wednesday, August the 12th. So if anyone here is interested in raising or ready to raise and it's time to chat with investors, it's now live on Luma, limited spots, get in early application. But yeah, thank you for coming, and I hope you have a good night tonight. Thank you, everyone.